Hello everyone, welcome back to Biology 232L, Human Anatomy and Physiology 2 lab at Clackamas Community College. My name's Christina Wallace, I'm your instructor, and today I'm going to talk about exercises 13A and 13B, upper body muscles and actions and lower body muscles and actions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, you have a master muscle list that we will review, and I'll show you how to insert picture files into your Foxit. I'll do an example. All right, here we are at your exercise 13A lab report. Gross anatomy of the upper muscular system and muscle actions. So we have two main goals with these muscle labs. One, we're learning you to identify actions occurring at joints. So that you'll be able to look at a picture on an exam test question and answer the question, what's happening at woman's right shoulder? And then look at a list of multiple choice answers and pick the correct action from that list. So identifying pictures of actions. That's why we want you to use only pictures of humans when you are uploading pictures and not diagrams that you download from the Googles. So and then the second main goal that we have is learning the muscle names. And so while you are learning these actions, you're going to be learning the names of the muscles that are doing those jobs and where on the body those muscles are. Because when you identify a muscle, like name this muscle that I'm pointing at, on a test question, you're going to be seeing a textbook picture of that muscle or a drawing from your textbook or looking at a picture from a video of a model. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So IDing actions from pictures and understanding how muscles move around and then knowing the names of muscles. And then we're going to talk a little bit about prime movers. Prime movers are basically just the main muscle doing the action, the one that's primarily responsible for any given action. And there's plenty of information showing you where to find information about prime movers. So your lab instructions kind of tell you what you need to do. You're just going to go through, you're going to see a bunch of actions listed as prompts, and you're going to give some information about it. And so let's just take a look at what they want you to do. So first off, I'll show you down here first. This is what you're going to be looking at. Part 1, muscles of facial expression. There are 3 options here, 3 prompts, and it says choose one, A, B, or C, and upload a picture. And so you can honestly just upload a tiny picture right here and then give me some information about it. And that information that I want you to indicate is all right here. And we'll see on the online instructions, your lecture professors give a really great example of exactly what you need to do. So 1, indicate the body part or joint. So what are we talking about? Head, wrist, hand, arm. Indicate the joint or area of action in number 2. So is it, if you say your pictures of an arm, but are you talking about the elbow joint, the shoulder joint, the wrist joint? What lever is being used to shorten the distance between 2 sets of muscle or 2 sets of bones via muscle contraction? Then number 3, indicate the action. So is extension occurring, abduction, flexion, rotation, etc.? Number 4, tell me the prime movers, the main muscles. So here you're going to be listing some muscles that are doing the job that you just indicated in number 3. And so sometimes prime movers work alone. You might only have one. And sometimes they work as groups. So you're going to be listing 1 to 4 muscles here, basically. There's hardly ever an instance where you need to tell me more than 4 muscles. And then 5, I just say, please follow an order and be neat. There's going to be these scattered pictures in picture files. Make sure that you keep these numbers all intact for every picture. If there's no joint, like down below when we see the facial expression, there's no joint for raised eyebrows. So you can just leave that one blank for that or draw a line through it or something. But try to keep the information really straight for every picture. Here we are at the online instructions. So that's just going to give you kind of more information about what you need to do. So a lot of the things I just said, identify the prime mover, and then they show you where you can find information about that. And then number 2, it's kind of giving you a nice example of how you're going to label your pictures. And so you have to highlight the muscle that you're talking about somehow. So here we are. We have a lovely picture of a guy doing an upward dog on his surfboard or paddleboard or whatnot. And there's a lot of actions going on. The prompt that I am trying to fill here is part 1A, extension of wrist. But I could use this picture for hyperextension at the neck. I could use it for extension at the hip. I could use it for plantar flexion at the ankle. Lots of things I could use this picture for. So I have to tell you, or you have to tell me, pardon me, what's going on. So you can see they've used the pencil tool in the Foxit document to put some scratch marks. All right, so I've told you the thing that is being acted on is the hand. That's right there. The wrist joint is the joint that's being, where the bones are being moved either farther away from each other or closer to each other. So boom, boom, wrist joint. Then the action that is occurring at this wrist joint and this one, because I'm indicating both of them, I don't have to say right or left here. If it wasn't both, I would have to indicate right or left. So extension or hyperextension is occurring here. If his hand was like straight out, that's extension. If it's bent back, the dorsal side towards the dorsal arm, then, or dorsal forearm, that's hyperextension. But the same muscles are going to be doing extension and hyperextension. Then number 4, I'm telling you the prime movers for this action at the wrist. Extensor carpi muscles. So they're going to, extend somehow from the upper arm down to the carpal bones of the hand. That's what carpi means. And extensor tells you what their job is. And then extensor digitorum is kind of like the main prime mover of that action. So that's what you have to do for all of the muscles that your labs ask for. There's like 9 in the upper body and I think 9 or 10 in the lower body. Not too many. So now that you know kind of what you have to fill out about your lab reports, this is what I need you to do for submission to me. Complete your report with all of your pictures. I'm going to do an example of putting a picture in just a second. Number 2 is really important. Please make sure all of your images are saved into one single document. The thing that I do not want is for you to submit your lab report and then submit like 10 individual JPEG files separate up to the Moodle submission link. Do not do that. Fine, it's your job to compile these images into one PDF file or one file and upload that singular file to Moodle so that I can grade it. I can open it. I can look at all your pictures, all of your labels, add my comments, and then save it and give it back to you graded. Number 3, please, when you are building or saving your documents, make a new file name. Don't just use the weird random name that your file was generated with. Please tell me your name and the assignment number somewhere in your file name. So I don't care about by 232L. That doesn't matter to me so much. But exercise 13A and C. Wallace. So I have the exercise number and I have my name. That's what's really, really important to me. It just makes it easier for me to organize you guys. Anything that saves time is good. And then use whatever pictures your lab report spills out that you just need to use pictures of humans doing natural things. You can't use diagrams that you have downloaded from the Googles. All right, so that pretty much takes care of the muscle actions and how you're indicating that stuff to me. We're learning actions and muscle names. Those are all good things. The second thing that you have to do is kind of review this list of muscles that are going to be at the end of this page and be able to identify them on a lab exam. So there's a couple ways we're going to do that, either textbook pictures or drawings from your textbook or from pictures of muscle models. So kind of still pictures taken from muscle model videos or them taking pictures of muscle models at school. And so your textbook pictures, I have some in my PDFs that I put up for studying and in this video. And then the models, there's 2 videos right here that you can go check out for upper muscles and lower muscles. Arm and leg muscles really are the ones that are important to kind of see 3D and kind of understand. Are they on the medial side of the arm or leg, or the lateral side? Are they kind of, are your inner thigh muscles versus back of thigh muscles? Just kind of pay attention to where things are located. One nice thing about online class is we will not be learning origins and insertions for specific muscles while in the online class. It's just a lot to memorize. I think it's kind of a con instead of a pro, because origins and insertions can tell you a lot about where a muscle is located. But anyway, enjoy not having to memorize those things. Yay! So this is the muscle study list that you should be familiar with. Note everything is kind of in nice little sections: neck, chest, abdomen, shoulder, etc. All of the upper body ones are on the left and the lower body ones are on the right. So these are the muscles that you have to learn for this class. You don't have to learn any other ones. If it's not on this list, you don't have to learn it. And so I think that these prompts about where they are really, really useful. Practice, what's on the back of the torso versus what's on the front of the torso. What's on the upper arm and shoulder versus what's on the lower arm. What's on the front of the thigh versus what's on the back of the thigh. What's on the inside of the thigh to pull if your thighs are out in a V, how do you pull them back together? Those are adductors. They're adding your legs back to your body, adding things close to the midline. So just kind of understanding where things are located. The names tell you a lot of stuff. Names are fun. So this is the list. Be familiar with this list. All right, so here we are back at the lab report, upper body, and I just want to draw your attention. If you are putting pictures directly into your lab, which is totally fine, you can put them right close to the prompts. So you could put like a picture right there and then have 1A and then 1, 2, 3, 4, all of the things about it. So just do that for all of them. But you can make your pictures, they don't have to be huge. I mean, this is a little small, but you can put them right in the area. And so give me 1 second, I'll show you how to do that. All right, I shifted around the size so that you could see the tools at the top of the Foxit menu. And so if you want to put in a picture, you just go up to this area right here to Image Annotation, and you click Image Annotation. And then when you come into your document, you can see you have a little plus sign. And so you just put your plus, you click, and you drag open a box, right? I'm going to make it a small box because I don't have a big window right here. And then it gives you an option of browsing your computer for a picture. I happen to have this one loaded up. I know it's not a muscle, but it'll show you. And so I have a picture loaded up, or I can go to browse and find another picture in my computer. I'll just use the one I have of a spinal cord. So you go find your picture that you want, and then you hit OK, and now you have a picture right here. And now you can go up here to your tools, and you can go to comment, and you pick the pencil, and then you can draw on the picture, right? The muscle that you want to highlight. Oh, it doesn't show it. Oh my gosh, that's so weird. Do your best. I know that's annoying. I don't know how to make it not do that. I don't know how to not make it. I don't know how to get it to show the writing on your picture, because now it's making it go away. Just do your best. I'm gonna be cool. Do what you can. All right, so I'm gonna undo inserting that picture. Undo. There you go. So that's kind of how you do. You use the, home image annotation, and just do your best about trying to mark things or indicate to me. I'll be cool. Okay. All right, so you know how to put pictures in. Part 2, you only have to do B. Part 3, just pay attention to the red writing. They tell you what you need to do. So do either A or B, then do either C or D, and then everybody do E. Okay, etc., etc., Follow the directions. So here on the torso, I just want to make a couple of clarifications. There's two that are kind of similar, and I think a lot of people get confused about this. So, flexion of the vertebral column, this is about kind of bending your spine, bending the actual like thoracic vertebrae side to side. So bending kind of sideways down like you're about to do a cartwheel, or kind of curling your upper body forward into a crunch, but where you're not really moving your hip joints. That's vertebral flexion. And then flex trunk on thigh. This is actually working the ball and socket joint of your hip. And so you're bending your entire trunk or torso over your thighs like a forward bend in yoga. Your vertebral column is actually pretty straight or in a neutral position when you flex trunk on thigh. And so there's two muscles. When you flex trunk on thigh, there's going to be two muscles that kind of go from your lumbar vertebrae down to one thigh bone, one femur, and down to another femur down here. So when you bend over on your thigh, you're using both of these muscles equally. Later on in the lower leg lab, you'll see flex thigh on trunk, which is you could just be bending, you know, one thigh up and not the other, and then you'd only be using one side of those muscles. And so just kind of think about flex trunk on thigh. We're going to use two muscles that go from our vertebral column to our femurs. And then if we only do one leg, if we're only flexing one hip, we're only going to use one side of it. And then in your slides that I provide you to study from, and in this video, I kind of break up all of the areas of muscle. So I have neck muscles here. There's two of them, sternocleidomastoid and anterior scalene. And I just number the muscles. I put number 1 and number 2, and I don't tell you the name because I want you to be able to go to the book and find where this muscle is and find where this two-headed muscle is, and put the name to it together. So you guys have to do a little bit of work here. And then where I have been able to, I've included some cadaver pictures. And then sometimes on these slides, you'll see a little question in red, which muscle is named for its origin and insertion. And so that means, is the anterior scalene named for origin insertion, or is sternocleidomastoid named for origin and insertion? Oh, sterno, that sounds a lot like sternum, you know, cloido, clavicle, oh, clavicle, mastoid, oh, mastoid process of my temporal bone, that bump of my skull behind my ear. I think I know which one. Okay. Upper body. Think about superficial and deep muscles. Abdominal muscles. And so remember from the first lab report, the direction of muscle fibers has a lot to do with the names of these abdominal muscles. And so over here, I show you a little mnemonic, X to the sex, into the chin, external obliques versus internal obliques, something about direction of fibers. And so pay attention to that. And then notice here, hold on a sec, let me get a highlighter. Notice here how these kind of windows are cut out of the tissue. Do you see these windows cut out right there? And so we're going into deeper and deeper layers. And so you have your most superficial layer, all of this one, right? And then you have kind of a middle layer, that's all of this stuff. And then you have the deepest layer, that's this stuff in this little deepest window. And so think about which abdominal muscle is deepest, which is the most superficial, which is the one in the middle. Just helps you remember stuff. And then serratus anterior is a muscle that's listed under the back muscles because it's kind of on the side of your body. But you can see it in the front pictures most often. And so I'll just highlight it right now. This serrated edge of serratus anterior is right there. Here's shoulder muscles. And so again, kind of be aware of the superficial muscles versus the deep muscles. Let the names give you information. So think about supraspinatus. What does spinatus make you think of? Something on your shoulder, right? Well, let's look around. Spiny thing? Is there anything spiny? Oh, the spine of our scapula right there. So all of these muscles are kind of living in all of those fossae that we saw on the scapula. So supraspinatus, oh, that's above the spine. Infraspinatus, oh, that's below the spine. Cool. And then a little clue, which teres muscle goes through your armpit to the anterior humerus? So it's going to do a different action. One of these teres muscle is going to do medial rotation at your shoulder, and one of them is going to do lateral rotation at your shoulder. So that clue right there can kind of help you understand that. Teres also means tube. And so think of the tube-like muscles, the ones that are shaped like little tubes. There's two of them right here. Tube-like. Then back muscles, just remember deep and shallow, or superficial and deep. Then upper arm, so biceps brachii, think about biceps, triceps, number of heads. Think about action. So if I'm going to pull my bent elbow back to straight, are those muscles going to be on the front of my bicep, or on the back, or on the front of my bicep, or on the back of my bicep? So just kind of think about that. And then elbow, forearm, hand. So these are the four muscles of your posterior forearm that you have to know. And so look, all the extensors that you have to learn are on the posterior forearm. So this is the back of your hand, the one that would have hair follicles, and the one where you could see your fingernails, right? And so all of your muscles that would take your bent wrist, like bent towards the opposite of a high five. So like the palm of your hand bent towards your forearm. To straighten that wrist to straight, those muscles are going to be on the posterior side of your arm. Hint, flexors are on the anterior side of the arm. So I say study tip here, just pick a direction, kind of going from the medial side over to lateral, or the lateral side over to medial, or sorry, this is lateral side because it's the thumb. And so even in anatomical position, this is not anatomical position. Just be aware. Like when you use terms like lateral and medial, you have to make sure you understand if you're looking at the front or the back of the arm to yourself. And then which muscle originates on the upper arm? Think about names. And so extensor carpi radialis, the radius is a forearm bone. The ulna is a forearm bone. Carpal bones are hand bones, wrist bones. Radius, okay, that's a forearm bone. Brachio, what does brachio mean? So kind of those are just there to help you study. Again, upper body muscles. These are all your flexor muscles. So you have two flexors that you have to learn. Palmaris longus is a short little muscle with a very long tendon. And then supinator, if you turn your palm of your hand up so that you could like cup water in it, you could eat soup out of your hand. That's your supinator muscle is going to turn your palm of your hand so you could drink out of it. Pronator, teres, pronator muscles is going to take the palm of your hand and turn it inferiorly so all the soup would fall out. All right, so that was upper body muscles. You're going to do the exact same thing for the lower body lab. Let's go take a look at that. So here we are at that. You're still going to be finding prime movers. You're going to be finding all the same stuff. So what part of the body, what joint is being moved, what is the action, what are the prime movers, one or more, usually 1 to 4, and then please follow this order and be neat for every picture. And again, you're going to have a part and a letter, and the red information is going to tell you how many you have to do for each part. Move the leg. So flexion of lower leg. So this is about your calf. Inversion, eversion, like try to work these out. So remember the guy that was on in the example in your online instructions where he was doing the upward dog pose on his paddleboard, and I said, oh, his feet could be showing plantar flexion. So plantar flexion is when the sole of your foot gets closer to the back of your calf, and dorsiflexion is when the hairy part of your foot on the top where you can see your toenails gets closer to the front of your leg, where you're like lifting your toes up off of the ground for dorsiflexion, and plantar flexion, you're pointing your toes. And so I just go over those muscles the same exact way that I did for the upper body. So hip, tensor fascia latae, great named muscle. I always think about going and getting a latte. Running to go get a latte. And then gluteus maximus, gluteus medius. So think about location of your glutes and what job they're going to do. Adductors, remember they're adding your legs back together. So if your legs are out in a V, split in a V, like you're about to do the splits, not front back, but side to side, and you bring your legs together, that's adding your legs back towards the midline. So these are going to be like mid-thigh muscles. Or pardon me, medial inner thigh muscles. Hip flexors, remember, these are going to cause flexion of the ball and socket joint in your hip. And so they're going to connect from your pelvic bone somehow down to your femur. Or from somewhere up on your torso down to your femur. And so iliopsoas is a muscle that the insertion is the same, but the origin is different. Sartorius is the longest muscle in your body, and it's kind of serpentine or S-shaped. So think about the muscles labeled on this picture, which one fits. And then piriformis is a tiny little pyramid-shaped muscle. It's like a little triangle. And then it's deep, deep, deep to all of your glutes. And so check it out on the page I've noted. Think about your quads versus your hamstrings. So quadriceps femoris are on your front of your thigh. And there's some information in the names. One is going to be medial. One's going to be lateral. One's going to be intermediate or in between those two. More hint questions. And then hamstrings are the back of your thigh. So be thinking about what kind of, what two sets of bones are these muscles right here going to bring together or shorten the angle between. So semitendinosus, one of them is going to have a long tendon. Semimembranosus, one of them is going to be medial membranosus. And then biceps femoris, one of them is going to have two heads. And then you have the back of your calf. So gastrocnemius soleus. There's only 4 muscles that you have to learn here. And then fibularis longus, fibularis brevis. What does fibularis tell you about that muscle? Is it medial or lateral? What bone is it associated with? And then the front of your calf as well, similar. And so we have a couple things that extend your toes. So think of curling your toes down like you're digging in the sand and then bringing them back up straight to kind of make them flat and in normal position again. That's what extensors of your toes do, of your digits, pardon me. Hallucis is hallux. And so your thumb and your big toe are special digits. They have their own name. Your thumb is called pollex. And your toe, big toe, is called hallux. And so that's where that name comes from. Alrighty, and that should do it for you. Have fun with these 2 weeks of lab reports. This video is good for both 13A and 13B. And then I will see you in the future for blood. Thank you.